Thanks for coming to Profit Share and Paninis. We're enjoying a lovely sandwich here brought to us by the ever so generous Stephanie Clements with Bluegrass Land Title. If you haven't closed with them before, you're missing out. They do a wonderful job. Their customer service is excellent, and they're highly adaptive and highly friendly and efficient and smart and all the things that you want. So definitely keep them in mind. And next time you see Stephanie, send her a big thank you for sponsoring today's panel. So we're going to spend an hour. It's going to be a power hour here while we eat. I hope y'all are eating at home. It's fun as well. And we've got some fantastic panelists here to talk with us today about Profit Share. We've got Laura Webb, who is on Zoom and remote today. We have Scott Pinella, who's here in the front left side of your screen, and then the lovely Emily Price, who is also my wonderful sister, if you guys didn't know. And they all have different experiences with their use of profit, with their being able to take advantage of Profit Share. And our purpose for today is really simple. It is to talk about Profit Share because it's important that everybody know that you don't have to know exactly what it means or exactly how you can play a role in Profit Share and how you can be part of Keller Williams as a shareholder as the profits grow. The purpose of Profit Share is to allow you to be a beacon to attract people to a company that is going to ultimately grow their business, okay? And as we talk about Profit Share, I do want to put an overarching message that I kind of want to plant your perspective a little bit, kind of hone your thinking, is that if you go into Profit Share thinking about that it's money for me or it's going to grow my wallet, you've really missed the big point of it. Yes, you do earn money on a Profit Share. That's an absolute truth and a wonderful aspect of it. But again, the bigger piece is that Profit Share is a reward to you as a Keller Williams agent for sharing the message of the company, for sharing the culture of the company, the tools and the systems that are wonderful that helps real estate agents live their best life. So that's what we're going to talk through today. So we're not going to get through it all. In fact, I hope that we have a really great, energizing conversation that leads to more of these, obviously, because this is not going to get covered in an hour. If you are at home, I want you to feel free to turn your screen on, unmute yourself, chime in. Don't worry if you're interrupting Zoom. It's just completely, it's fine etiquette to interrupt. That's just the nature of it. So don't worry if you do. But I'll lead with questions, but ultimately I want to go down the path that you guys want to go down. I want you all to be educated and more empowered through our conversations. Sound good? Perfect. All righty. So I'm going to start with the easiest question first, panelists. What is passive income?
Laura, no. Passive income to me is income that I have set up a system that allows whatever is working in the background that I've actively set up, and I can leave it alone and it will still work. And that income still comes to me. That's not to say that it's just free money. That's called the lottery or gambling, or you have to put in some work and then let it go, walk away from it. And if it still is going and operating, that's a passive income potential.
I would add to that it is it's not the direct exchange also of like your hours for dollars. So it's kind of like you can plant the seed, and if you keep that seed nourished and so forth, it does the work of kind of growing and blooming on its own.
Exactly. So when Keller Williams agents are able to take advantage of the Profit Share opportunity, Gary Keller says that they are stakeholders at that point. So help us all understand kind of at the ownership / Profit Share earners level, what that means. How do you have ownership in this company by bringing someone else to this business?
Hey, Laura. No, how you have ownership. So, so if I give the wrong answer, you correct.
I'll help you, absolutely.
Okay. So the idea is that, and the way that I understand it is that we, as a company of Keller Williams, the market centers generate profit, right? So the purpose of business is to fund a perfect life. That's our goal law. And part of our culture here at Keller Williams is to be profitable. And so the concept of profit share is that we as associates of Keller Williams are able to share in the profit that the market centers or the overall Keller Williams company generates. And I think that is quite fantastic because we all have the ability again to benefit from the profitability of this business, even if our title isn't OP, right? And I think that's a tremendous opportunity. And I think that it speaks volumes to the culture of our company and what Gary intended and has held truth to, in that we are an agent-centric and agent-owned business. And so everything that all of our leaders decide here within Keller Williams is to support all of us that help to grow the company together. And that's why we're number one. So
And I rarely get to fill in details when Emily speaks.
So you start.
So,
When you do.
but I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity because
Yeah.
normally she is a rock and roller on details. But I'm going to just take this just a step further as far as the stakeholders are concerned, is that what Gary set up originally was, and not just Gary, but the original ALC, the original Agent Leadership Council set up was, how do we split the profits? And so they split the profits 50 to 55%. And that it depends on the month, it depends on the amount of profit. 50 to 55% of the profit is given to the owners who took the risk at opening up the offices, that they plowed the way, they paved the way, they're going into towns and places that have never been, and then they split the rest, 45 to 55%, with the agents that continue to build the office. So that's a little bit more of a specific how we actually own part of the office, because it is based off of real profit. It's not based off of, and we'll get into this, but it's not based off of a revenue, which is not always a real number. So we'll, just to kind of think about, that is a real factor as far as that profit is concerned.
And I'm going to slow that down a little bit in case you guys missed the most important part of the answer to that question. The owners of your market center are only taking approximately half, and we say approximately because it is different across market centers, half. What owner of what business do you know that only takes half of their profit? I would love to know. I consider that very, very generous, and I think that that's very big thinking, because Gary Keller understands, again, when he says that something needs to be agent-centric, he needs to put his money where his mouth is, and he's done just that and passed the culture down across market centers. I think that's wildly powerful. I think you would agree. So when a market center is profitable, those who participate in profit share are able to get a piece of the pie that's nearly half of the profits of that market center for that month. Pretty fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep going.
Alyssa,
Yeah,
this is Becky.
have it.
I just wanted to add that if we know people in other states that can benefit from Keller Williams, maybe we know other agents, that profit share also applies to those offices. So we, of course, we're always concentrating on KWLE, but I just wanted to bring that out, that is nationwide. So if you know other agents that could really benefit from Keller Williams, introduce them to a market or a team leader in their market and let that work for them. Just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Becky. I appreciate that. So so a lot of people will say, well, how do I get into this? So do you need to be 2 years into the business? Do you need to be 10 years into the business? We know you don't need to be an owner. Who can participate in profit share at Keller Williams today?
I think the best person to answer this is actually Laura.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. So yes, who can participate in profit share is anybody who is associated with Keller Williams. It can be an administrative assistant, it can be an agent here locally, all across the country, anyone across the world. I actually onboarded someone about 2 weeks ago who then introduced me to somebody who they were in real estate school with, and I met with that person as well. And so that person had somebody in their profit share downline within a matter of 2 weeks. So it can be anybody.
If I can say something, I've only been with Keller for 7 months and I already have someone in my downline.
Well done.
That is fantastic. That's fantastic. Let's talk about downlines. What does it mean? Let's change gears and talk about profit share tree and how it's set up. Okay, and I've got a visual that's going to help guide, because profit share does have its complexities, and I'd be fibbing if that was not the truth. But I want some of the panelists to start talking about what a profit share tree is, what your downline is, what that means.
Scott, I think you're best at that.
Okay.
I don't know, one time Scott and I were having a conversation and I was asking something real specific. He's like, James, at a certain point, you just gotta trust the formula works. Remember that?
Yeah.
Here's a photo to guide you along.
It's fine.
Right? That's fair. You're right.
So the profit share system is based off of 7 levels of sponsorships. That does not mean that you have to go sponsor all 7 people. It just means that it is a level system, or it's a system based off of the 7 levels that you have one person that you've sponsored. They've named you the reason that they chose to join Keller Williams, and then they found somebody that chose them. So it goes 7 deep, and it looks like this. They choose you, and then your level, and then your level, and then your level. Probably the biggest thing that I would say that you need to understand is to go for your level 1, and then just support and love and build out there in the business world, and the rest will grow itself wide. I'll give you an example, real live number. I have 18 in my line 1, 19 as of yesterday, by the way. Only took 2 years, but we're good. And then I have 27 in my line 2, 34 in my line 3, 30 in my line 4, 7 in my line 5, 5 in my line 6, 3 in my line 7. Okay. Now, I don't know all those people. In fact, I knew one person in Tennessee that I ended up being the sponsor of, and then they ended up going and recruiting 12 different people. So that was like obviously a home run opportunity, but that's where a lot of those line 3s are from. I'm looking at my downline right now as we speak. You can do that on kw.com, not in command on KW, in my KW. So if you focus on your line 1, and support those people, in my opinion, you just can't bring somebody into this environment and not feed them, right? I mean, it's like dropping off an elephant at the zoo and going, good luck, buddy. And that's the thing, is that if you have that opportunity to dive into that person, they will experience the same thing you have, and then they will share that information. And if they need you to come in and talk to other people, they will, but that's what I focus on as my line 1.
Absolutely. and we're in the business of taking care of people, and taking care of the people that you attracted to the business is an important and lovely responsibility as well. Those are the people that I'll often, nudge to come to an event with me or show up to a class, or sometimes I'll gift them a ticket to come to a business planning clinic or something like that. So panelists, let's talk about how someone names a sponsor, because this is an important place to slow down. There's a genuine, authentic thread that's woven, because again, we're not recruiting, we're attracting, and those are two very different things. They're very different things, and it needs to be handled with care. And unfortunately, I think when it's not handled with care, I think people don't mean it that way. I think that they do it because they don't pause and try to understand it and respect it. So panelists, tell us what that looks like in terms of when you attract someone and when it comes time to name a sponsor. How do we handle that?
Laura, why don't you just talk a little bit about what that looks like from your admin side of things, because you see this more often than we do.
Absolutely. So when I am sitting down with folks and completing onboarding paperwork, that's when it's time to actually write down the name of the sponsor. But way back before that, when I'm first having a recruiting conversation with somebody, I first and foremost make sure within the first few sentences that I am mentioning the name of the agent who is responsible for getting me and that recruit together. I'm asking, oh, so how do you know Becky Lush? And making sure that her name is brought up frequently. I ask, how they know each other. When I'm following up at the end of the conversation, I finish by saying, oh, I'm so glad that Becky, was able to get the two of us together for us to have a conversation. So I just make sure first and foremost, they have heard from me the name of the person who's responsible for getting them in front of me to begin with. And then when it comes time that they've decided they're going to join us and we're completing onboarding paperwork, when they get to the line to name their sponsor, I let them know that this is going to be the name of the person who's responsible for getting the two of us together to have a conversation, and that they may have had several conversations with folks at Keller Williams. And in thinking of all the people that they've been in contact with, who is the name of the person who most made them realize, wow, Keller Williams is where I want to hang my hat and is responsible for us getting together. I hope that helps answer that question.
I think what I've always learned about this is, and maybe this isn't how everybody thinks, but I will not ever have a conversation ever, my personal choice with anybody saying, hey, so like when you sit down with Laura, she's going to say, who's your sponsor? And I really want to be your sponsor. I don't think I've ever even used the word sponsor in any of my talent attracting conversations. So, and I think it's important to also know, like to echo what Alyssa said, I think it's important to harness to what this is really all about is to come from contribution. So coming from contribution, helping to show people who want a bigger life than what they have now, to show them opportunity that Keller Williams can provide. I think that's the genuine real win. And then should it all funnel out after that to also positively impact your profit share, icing on the cake. So I think at the end of the day, if you take care of enough people around you, you don't have to, you're going to be taken care of, it's going to be fine. So if you just focus on always coming from contribution, and so more specifically, I mean, not everyone is going to name you that you think is going to name you. And that's okay. You've got to be okay with that, and that's fine. And not get lost in that would be my encouragement.
I'm going to add one more thing to it. First of all, there's a couple messages in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Say that's the first thing. Second thing I would add to it that is very important for everybody to hear is that just because they're joining your team, if you are growing a team, or if you are or if you are hiring them to be the admin of your team, or that they are hired to be a participant in listings and buyers or whatever, they're not required, and it should not be required to put you as their sponsor. That's inappropriate, unprofessional, and it's not what we're built for, okay? I'm just mentioning that because I know that that is a question that comes up a lot of times with newer people. They don't know what they're signing. They're signing all kinds of crazy stuff when they're just signing up at a brokerage. And so it shouldn't be conveyed, or it should be conveyed that we are not about a forced sponsorship type of situation.
Exactly. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about that? Because again, I think when it's done wrong, I really believe it's because people they didn't know any better. And I always want to take care of that. I want to have a lot of grace with that.
It was just recently, Alyssa, when Laura, I had that appointment with Laura, and I remember our conversation very well, especially when she said, talking about the sponsor and making it, Seamus is my sponsor, and she brought Seamus's name up often, and I didn't feel at all like I was confused or that there was any recruiting going on. I think the delivery of how Laura said it's definitely given that goal that it's more of a mentorship than it is the profit share.
Sonia has been mirrored as she's attracted talent. She's a great recruiter.
Oh, wonderful. Awesome, Sonia. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's stay on that topic right now, and let's talk about the attraction. We say attracting business. So let's pause on that and jog about what are good ways that we attract people to Keller Williams.
Be successful yourself is a good one.
Yeah, I think that to me, the number one thing you can do is be a professional during the transaction, period. I mean, we're all, listen, I'm not an easy person to get along with, and I'm not an easy person to judge.
Did I say it out loud?
Oh my God, it's a big deal.
No, I said that.
I would have appreciated you would have got my vote. No, I mean, and I'm speaking for myself because to me, I'm not an easy person to always be in relationship with, whether it be a professional or personal relationship. And so for me, the one thing that I try to really focus on is my clients and their journey during the transaction. And unfortunately, sometimes our clients put us in very tough situations. And it's how you react to that, to the other agent, and how you prepare yourself for the challenges that are ahead of us, and properly filling things out and properly checking off these lists and doing whatnot. And if you're not good at that, that's why I have Whitney, because I suck at a lot of those details, right? So I think that that's the very first layer of being a professional during the transaction.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to add to that? In terms of what makes you, how do you think people have been attracted to Keller Williams? Were you raising your hand? Yeah. Speak real loud. You're in the back.
Okay. I mean, I actually had my first conversation with a Keller Williams agent who was a neighbor of mine. Didn't choose her to be my sponsor. Bought a house with a Keller Williams agent. Didn't choose her to be my sponsor. And then I met Scott at a networking event with my previous boss. And we just had like a really authentic conversation. I mean, truly it was more about like family than anything. And it just.
And I remember that. Yeah. And it was one of these really kind of strange situations where somebody said, well, Brittany just chose you as their sponsor. And I was like, it just tells you, it just goes to show you that as long as your story is authentic, and everybody who knows me knows that our family is extremely important to us. And that is part of our story. And if you're authentic to who you are across the board, doesn't matter whether you're at a picnic, which I think is where we were, or a formal closing or whatever it is, that your story stays the same, you know, and your authenticity stays the same, because people are gonna be able to understand that, see that, read right through that, right? So,
When I stopped working with that agent, the reason I didn't stay at that brokerage was because I didn't feel like there was any genuine care or interest. Like, you know, I got really ambiguous advice on how to get my career going. And, you know, they advised me to do things that I had already been doing for months. And the fact that they didn't know I had already been doing those things was like kind of mind blowing to me. And so I looked for an authentic connection elsewhere. So
I think there's, to repeat Brittany's statement, if you all couldn't quite hear it at home in the back, she made a good mention that she had experiences with a couple of different Keller Williams agents. One she worked with on a real estate transaction. She didn't name either one of those. Not because she didn't want to, but it's because they didn't stand out. When the Paninis came along, they were in curiosity. They asked about her. How are you? It was beyond business.
let's not give Meg credit. It was
all Scott. Meg was just wasting her time doing nothing like you do.
Wow.
I'm just kidding, Meg.
Just kidding.
I got on speaker. No, I'm kidding.
We are recording too. No, but there's so much to be said about, you know, it just goes back to also, people don't really care about how much you know, but they want to know how much you care. So that's what we've just talked about, is a two-level, we've got two levels in that. When you're across the table from an agent, they're going to see how you care so deeply about your client. I mean, they know that you represent your client first, but that comes through the transaction. We can all think about different cross agents that we've had, and we can probably name the top 2 or 3 that's like, no, they actually really, really care about their people. They leaned in and worked hard on behalf of their clients. So when you are that agent that so clearly cares about what you do, they're going to first feel that. And then can you imagine if after that transaction, they got a call from you and then a call from the team leader of the brokerage that said, you did a really great job. I can tell that you care. You really showed up when this happened. Oh yeah. How's your business? How are you? How's your life with 2020 right now? Like, what's going on? And people just don't get questions. And when you stay in curiosity with people, I think that's a massive attractor, because people feel that they're cared about. We do care about people. I mean, I don't think we'd be in this business if we didn't care about people.
I think that we're the minority a bit as far as the industry is concerned, and this is, or not just industry, but just call it locally. I think that we're a little bit in the minority when it comes to somebody thinking, and Stephanie could speak to this, I don't know, because I don't go to any more of these brokerages, but there's a depth at our office, or not just our office, but at our brokerage, that takes it a step further as far as being in relationship with somebody enough to talk about their personal life, to talk about their, you know, there are so many what I consider transactional agents out there, that it's a struggle for me to be in relationship with them, because they're there just to get the transaction done and move on. And, you know, I don't know what that looks like from your perspective, but we've seen you around for 10 years plus, you know?
Well, I will say, I mean, when I have somebody even talking about going into real estate, like, you know, the first couple of years are so crucial of whether you're going to make it or not. And I will tell them, I mean, Keller Williams has the best training, the best, you know, like, at least go talk to that, you know.
And my guess is that's hard because you do have other relationships with elsewhere.
Absolutely. And so, you know, and I'm like, you know, after that, decide, but go try it out because of the training and what you're going to get. And then you can say, you know, but I do see there are some brokerages that I would never want to send somebody to, and that's sad. But and I hear from people who are like, I'm new, but I get no support. I can't, you know, I'm calling other agents from other companies trying to get get an answer.
Right.
And so I can't commend Keller Williams with the structure that you have, where you have that mentorship.
Alyssa, can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
For me, Keller offered something unique. They offered an opportunity to be heard. I believe the process of onboarding, I'm not sure how everyone does it or, teams do it, but with the, different tests and the interview, how in depth it was, I believe that Keller, they're not looking for a certain type of agent. I believe they're looking for a certain type of person. And I believe that the people that Keller looks for is leaders, people that have leadership qualities, people that are unique and have long-term goals. And as someone who is young and just starting off in a career, it's hard to be heard. And anyone can relate that. And leadership qualities, there's a uniqueness with that can make you feel isolated sometimes. And I think Keller offering that platform to be heard, for me to even be on here to speak right now, for me to give an opinion, your opinions and your ideas are respected and valued. And I think that is something that for me, when I was deciding between other brokerages, was invaluable and really pushed Keller over the edge.
Thanks for sharing that, Sonia. Thank you very much. And we appreciate you. Yes.
I would add that right now it's a fantastic way to introduce people who are already into other cross agents and so forth. That's a fantastic way to introduce people to Keller Williams for sure. We all have a really big opportunity right now in the way that 2020 and 2021 is rolling out for people, in that we probably all can always do another round of care calls through our database and in our sphere and so forth, in that there are people who need different employment revenue generating opportunities right now that were not in that position a year ago, a month ago, 6 months ago. And so, some of the very best real estate agents for our city could be people that aren't even in the industry yet. And so, so I think that's a very strong opportunity to really, again, come from contribution and help the people in your database, in your sphere, and also an opportunity to grow Keller Williams and in turn grow your profit share.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I don't know if this has been a question that has been asked. One of the things that I get when I talk to people about Keller Williams is that they love the culture and they love the training. And a barrier is, look at all these fees.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that can be overcome and worked through. However, how do you approach that when you're in casual conversation? And it's not like a recruiting conversation,
right?
Yet it is just something that is just stated when they, if it comes up literally like, man, I'm not a big fan of where I'm at now. I love I kind of like where you are, and you're talking like you got a lot of stuff going on. And
Cut you off. Okay. So here's what you do at that stage of the game. If you're to the point where you're talking fees and you're talking all of that, that is the clear opportunity to refer them to a conversation that you go to and you sit in and you don't say anything except for hi and welcome and good to see you and whatever with our team leader. Because that is at that stage of the game. That is her specialty, okay? And it is, and she's learned it over the years, and that's why she's in the spot where she's at. And she's only going to get better and better and better, and we realize that. But that's what that's for, is when you're to that point, you need to be able to hand that over and say, let's just get really clear on this and what this looks like. And let me get you with the person that needs to be able to. I think some of this is all reformulating. I think it's all going down the track of understanding what it all is for and whatnot. Let's get in front of the right person so you can have that conversation over coffee.
I mean, fair, that can be, and not to be facetious, that can be delay and obfuscation, right? What I really need to know is how to respond.
You're not, so if somebody asks me that, if somebody asks me that, Milton, if they're talking about, it comes up in a lot of different ways. I gotta make a certain amount of money, or I gotta all the because yes, it is gonna come up because why do people work to make an income? 100%, like, again, so the way that I respond to it is, I will just quickly, I'll kind of go along with what Scott does, but I'll say something like, you know, those questions in terms of like the mechanics and the pragmatics of how all of that goes administratively, that is really like, that's not where my expertise lies. However, I have a colleague, Laura Webb or Alyssa Withrow, that they are a pro at being able to answer those questions really articulately for you. And so I think probably what would be a really good step is I would love to connect you with them. And I think that, and a lot of my conversations sometimes, I will often be having hiring conversations for my team. So the scripting I specifically will use is say, I am the expert for all your questions that are price group related, and all of your questions that are outside of price group and more with the umbrella of how Keller Williams functions. I want to make sure you're in great hands with the expert, and that would be Laura or Alyssa. So what I'm gonna do, and then I kind of don't even ask their permission, this is just a tactic for all of our lead generation buyers and sellers too. I don't say, can I connect you with Laura? I say, here's what I'm gonna do. As soon as we hang up here, I'm going to open a joint text stream between you, me, and Laura and introduce the two of you. And then from there, that way you guys can coordinate your calendars because Laura would love to meet with you. And that's it. And Laura, I mean, we have a pretty good rhythm, wouldn't you say, Laura? And she just takes it from there. And then all I do at that point is just make sure they connected. But Laura sees it, and Laura sees it through the whole time for me. I do not answer money questions around Keller Williams.
Can I add one little caveat to that? One thing that I'll do in addition to that, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, is I will try to give them the gift of perspective, and say, I'll quickly say, I don't look at it as fees, I look at it as an investment in my business, because I think that's easier to swallow. And I say, if it wasn't the most lucrative place to be, I promise you I wouldn't be here, but let's hand that off to them.
Right, exactly.
A lot of times it does not come down to the money.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
It doesn't. I know it seems like it does, and you hear that it does, but when you start getting in dialogue with somebody, it's not about the money. I literally just took 2 years to get engaged with and be a part of her life. And Samantha Marbury from United joined us yesterday.
Well, barrier.
And what's that?
What would it mean? Can you say?
She just had a fear of change in general. Okay. She just really had a fear of change. Like she was like, oh my gosh, I've got to really be in control of my whole business. Right. Like, and that was a big thing to her. What was an eye-opening thing to her is how many units she did, multiply that by the $500 that is charged by United on every transaction. And the next thing you know, they're at $12,800, $13,000, you know? And she's like, if I grow, their cap is like $37,000. Their cap. So like, at what stage of the game you go, even though I'm at this minimal place, it's still one of those things where the numbers eventually show up, right? So it's not always about the number, but probably if she were to sit here, she would say the potential is what her biggest thing was, her growth potential, because she got to a certain level and has hit a ceiling the last 2 years. And she said, Scott, you've been talking to me for 2 years. And I actually went back 3 and 4 years, and I've never done over 24 units.
You know why you should never give up on someone hard to convert? Because once you get them here, they're probably here for a long time.
Yeah. If they take a real long time to figure it out.
Yeah, right.
And you have to stop and understand a lot of transactional based agents who are not business owner minded, they're thinking transactionally and they're thinking in percentages and dollars and pluses and minuses is how they think.
Yeah.
So this is no different than when your seller has a commission objection with you. Do they care about the check that you take home? No. They care about the money that they are taking home. They care about the value that you are bringing them. They don't truly care about what goes in your bank account at the end of the day. That's not what they're getting at. So when it comes so that you don't feel like you're doing a handoff or brush on the rug, we'll talk about it in a minute, just come to my appointment, because you don't want to feel like that.
Right.
what they're going to discover, and something that's very appropriate to say, is Keller Williams offers a few different ways to be in business together. And when you speak with Laura or Alyssa, they're going to be able to shed a lot of light on what might work best for you, because what works best for you in business is not going to be what works best for me in business. And there's a couple of different models that we can work backwards from, because ultimately the goal of Keller Williams is to have a life worth living and a business worth owning. Okay. So however that looks, whatever that value is, because to bring Scott's point home, it's not always about the money in terms of how much they can make. For some agents are attracted to Keller Williams not because they're short on money at all. They're short on a life, and they're short on leverage, and they're short on patience, and they're so tired they don't know what to do. They're not coming here because it's cheaper. Okay. And for some people, we might be a better value in terms of the dollar, but the answer is that we don't know. We don't know where their gap is. And so when you leverage that conversation over to the team leader and Laura, then we can help. It's not, we don't bring you in, we don't bring them into that conversation to sell Keller Williams. We're not going to show up as a commercial. We don't tap dance. But what we do is we ask questions, and we ask what they need and what they're missing and where they want to be. And, oh yeah, do you have goals? We understand how to have a better and a more clear understanding about what's going to help them feel better in their professional world and be better people, happier people, productive people at the end of the day. So the cool thing is you all are not responsible for saying that. You are not responsible for having that script. All you need to know is how to say, hang with me, let me connect you to somebody, because I think it's really important that we talk further and deeper about this. This is a big deal. This is your job. So
Something that I have used for you, especially because the ones I tend to hear are newer agents who aren't getting support, and they're, and I will say, I've said Keller Williams, and I've heard, well, I don't like their splits, or I don't like, and one of the things I said, when we get a degree, we're paying $100,000 to get that training, to go out and get. You went to class for 6 weeks for whatever hours you paid, $1,200 or whatever to get that training. Going to somewhere like Keller Williams allows you to still be making money while you finish out your training. So instead of consider that the investment in your training.
Oh, yeah.
And so for newer agents that are like that, you pay to get schooling, you pay to get training, and then it's worth it. But you're actually going to be able to make money while you're getting that. So that's another way to.
That's a very good point. So we spent a good amount of time talking about the best part of profit share, and that's helping other people. But profit share does make money for agents who attract business. And so these panelists here have been the recipient of that money. So I want you guys to talk about how your profit share has changed your financial health and how profit share has kind of changed your life at this moment. We hear, and I'm going to add one more and then I'll be quiet. We hear about the big Linda McKissicks, and I mean, she's $1.5 million a year in profit share. That's awesome. That's real, by the way. That's real. I mean, I looked at her profit share tree 3 days ago. It's absolutely real. She's not superhuman. She's not anything different. She just had a very focused goal in mind. But what I don't want people to lose sight of is the fact that there's a lot of other people that aren't doing $1.5 million a year in profit share, but they're doing money that makes a difference. Okay. And that's a big reality for a lot of people. And I want to applaud and celebrate the McKissicks all day long. Trust me, they deserve it. But I want to also talk about what it looks like across the board. So you guys share a little bit, if you're willing to be transparent, tell us a little bit about that mailbox money that you guys get.
Go ahead, Laura. You start.
Sure, I'll go first. So my profit share is not anything monumentous. I think over the years that I've been the recipient of profit share, I think my smallest check was probably $3 and some change, and my largest in one given month was close to $600. Because my goal is not for anybody to write my name down on the dotted line when it comes time for naming a sponsor. Yet there are times when people reach out to us directly from a real estate school and maybe they've not talked to anybody else. So I do have, I think right now I have 8 different people in my downline. And the most significant thing that I've been able to do with my profit share money is when my son turned 16, I was able to purchase a car for him. Now, it wasn't any grand car, but the fact that I was able to purchase a car for him was something I never thought that I'd be able to do. And so that is my big success with my profit share.
Thanks, Laura. Oh, yeah.
So I think about our profit share, my husband and I together, Ben and I together, and what we have used it in 2 different ways. Been with Keller Williams for 6 years, and so we're still in the process. I mean, we're always still in the process of growing it. But the 2 ways that we've used it is that we have reinvested a large degree of it back into our business. We run an expansion business, so we're in several different markets, and so we use it as funds to start up new markets. And then the other thing, I have 5 children. One of them is a senior in high school, so time is ticking. And we're really big on experiences and making memories and creating family traditions and all of that. And our kiddos, they really like to travel. So we will use the profit share money to go on trips and spend time together as a family. So reinvesting back in our business and reinvesting in our family, which is basically my whole life.
Well, where were you last week? Where were you last week?
Oh, yeah, I'll share where I was last week. So yes, profit share, and I'll also do a bold commercial. I have my bold bracelet on, it doesn't really ever come off. I was in Colorado last week with my family. And for those of you that have taken bold, you write a letter to your future self, and I've taken it 6 times, my husband's taken it 7. And for all of our letters, I believe we've always written that one day we're going to take our family to Colorado because my husband graduated from the Air Force Academy there, and special place to him, special place to me. We dated there, all that good stuff. And our kids have never been. And so this was our last fall break before my oldest goes to college, which means we, I guess, aren't going to have fall breaks together anymore. I'm not really ready to accept that, but we'll see. And anyway, so we were like, now's the time. So we went to Colorado. So it was we manifested our destiny, guys, through our bold letters, and then profit share most definitely helped to fund that. So thank you, Keller Williams. My kids had a great time. They say thank you as well. And oh, by the way, my daughter's gonna be 18 in March, and she's getting her real estate license. Get
Which
ready.
is another avenue. If you think of the McKissicks, it's another avenue of profit share, right? I mean, they're well, it's not just willable, but you know, Press is our regional director, and then likely, obviously his wife is a team leader up in Dayton, and I mean, it just trickles down. And we've been super fortunate, y'all. I mean, I'm looking back at our numbers, and in 2006, for the entire year, we profit shared $2.62. That was the entire year. And then in 2007, we profit shared $95.02. And it's gone up from there. I don't have Meg's in front of me. It's double mine typically. But our profit share is to be extremely transparent. It has saved us monthly. I don't have any other way to say it. I mean, I'm just going to throw out some numbers. Like we've had $2,000 checks. We've had, $1,400 checks. Our average check is between the two of us is right around $3,000. And our mortgage is a large chunk of that. And it sometimes when you're in this business and you have 4 kids and life is hard. Some people think, oh, Meg and Scott, they make so much money in their profit share, they're not worried about it. No, that's not true, right?
And you all give a lot too.
Yeah, well, it's just our expenses because we were stupid for many years. Okay, and I'm being super transparent. We're just stupid, right? Who had a $55,000 credit card debt? I did, right? Well, what does that pressure feel like when you don't have any closings? You know, I mean, this again, I'm being super transparent because I want you to understand that that's what Keller has done for us, you know, and that's where it's been, hey, Meg, you know, how are we doing this month? You know, we used to be month to month. We're not there anymore, but we used to be month to month, and it's still, now I have got a coach and she's been amazing. It's been fantastic. I'm a bold dropout 7 times, but it, you know, but it still had, no, I know that's, I was ready for that. But it made it affect, but actually I like to throw the but on this one because it's more important that there are things that I learned there that I heard, you know, and that's more important than the dropout factor, in my opinion, that I've learned those things. And I just can't reiterate enough that my life has changed because of Keller Williams. And listen, this is not about going and getting somebody as a recruit. And I mean, even Gary during Mega Camp this past month said, we at one point in time became a recruiting company. And we lost our focus as far as who we are at the core. And that is coming back, and we're feeling it and we're seeing it. And I think that that's really cool. Again, she's a third party in here and she provided us an awesome lunch, but Stephanie could probably attest if she wanted to be super transparent, you don't need to, but like the ups and the downs of the relationships with each office in the area, but including each agent up and down. Like, oh, this agent's being this way now, this agent's being that way. Like they're so super focused on recruiting and all of that. And I think it's changing again. I think that we're going through an evolution, and that's just going to be who we are as a story. And at the end of the day, package all of that up together, and that's what Keller Williams and Profit Share has done for Meg and I. Sure, we've had some fun things, blah, 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 I could do, but at the end of the day, overall, we don't have 1 or 2 specific things that we've pointed to that we still maintain. We did this because of Profit Share. No, we paid our bills. We paid our bills. We paid our taxes, you know, because we got to a tax deficit, because I'm that guy also, you know. I mean, it took us a long time to get off of our schneid and realize what the heck is going on. We call it adulting, you know, like we're adulting now, you know, and at some stage of the game, you got to realize I've got to go work. I've got to go work. And that's a challenge for me. I'm getting on my tangent, so sorry.
I love it.
But I'm getting, you know, that's one of those challenges that I have is when I look at some agents and they're doing 3 transactions, 5 transactions a year, and they're super sweet, but that's all they're looking to do. I have a hard time connecting with those folks. And I'm not, no offense, but I'm probably not gonna get engaged so much unless they really engage with me, like, hey, I'm looking to grow my business. Like, that's spending my time with 20%. My 20% is people who are doing probably 15 plus transactions a year at a higher level, you know? And that to me is somebody who's in the business and who can take advantage of what Keller has to offer. And that's where the depth comes into play. You know, Beth Siri is up here. I see Beth, you know, she's a quiet girl who just goes out there steadfast. And I look at her business, and she came on as a buyer's agent, was like, I can't handle Scott because he's crazy. And and we have a great relationship, obviously, but she's somebody who started out and her first year is like 500, 600,000, 700,000. Next thing you know, what'd you do last year or this year? Like around 3 million? You're on mute.
This year, I'm hoping with everything I have in our contract to be at 8 million.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
a lot more than 3.
Yeah.
I mean, she did like a $3 million month, you know? I mean, it's like, it's just awesome to see somebody like quietly stealthy going about it, learning. She's always in these classes, doesn't say much, learns, you know, and implements it. And that to me is what Keller offers. So I'll get up.
I do have to say I'm very slow with the whole process, but Keller Williams is the best. I love it.
Thanks,
Hey,
Scott.
Lisa, can I?
No, go ahead.
When I first got here, I was one of those that thought like, well, I'm late to that party, so it'll be nice, but it won't be significant. And I genuinely believe in this place and what it's done for my business. And so that is truly the only reason I ever try to recruit or attract talent.
Yeah.
I got a deposit last month. I didn't even realize what it was going to be. It was $1,550.
Wow.
I mean,
That's awesome.
and now I'm like, oh, maybe I should be more intentional about
Yeah,
this.
Say it's-
exactly.
But
That's why that's a fun night.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Oh, I think you said
No,
that.
I said,
I
maybe
didn't
people-
say that.
Are you sure?
I promise I didn't say that.
I think you said it's a fun night.
You heard about my trip to Vegas.
I said that's a lot of money.
Oh.
It is a lot of money, and that can make for a fun night.
Lighting money on fire.
I'm gonna go back and record that.
No, I
You said,
said,
well, that's a
I said
fun night.
that's a lot of money. It would also be probably a pretty fun night.
Yeah, Emily's got some.
I know we're running low on time. I think for me, when it's helpful to, so in case it's helpful for anyone else, it's helpful to go from a conversation that can sometimes be like thoughtful and philosophical or what have you, into like, okay, but tell me something to do. Like, I want to get into action with this,
Yeah.
right? And so I would say, and I learned this from Scott Pinella, if I think everyone should think about profit share because we're all in Keller Williams. I bet you we all share a commonality that we think like business people. That I think is part of the essence of Keller Williams. And so when you think like a business person, you are cognizant that it's a win to develop multiple streams of income in your life, right? And so whereas most of us, I imagine, focus on a production stream, there are other streams to it than that. So profit share, think about it like that. Profit share can be an additional stream of income in your life. And so how does a business person think about their income streams? They need to think about it intentionally. And so back to a bold law, what you focus on
Expands.
expands. And so Scott, you knew that one.
Yeah.
So Scott,
I focus on food right now. but-
so Scott taught me that he said, Emily, you should always have like a board or a list of names that you're thinking about. Because if you take in bold, you know, the RAS conversation, all of a sudden you want to buy a red car and now all you see is red cars. They didn't just hit the road, it's just now you're paying attention. And so I think profit share is the same thing. You want to, you'll get more, it is a marathon, not a sprint, which Jenny McKissick said on Facebook the other day. That's very, very true. Marathon, not a sprint. And also you'll still get going on your marathon faster if you intentionally make it happen for yourself rather than waiting for it to happen to you. And so I and our team, we transitioned this past year. We have a weekly report that we all fill out that talks about all the production numbers and all that. And there's also a section for the whole team that talks about talent. And so people can put goals around talent. So we talk, that is the way that we have systemized in our business that we make sure that we talk about it no less than once a week, because we're talking about everything else in the Monday morning meetings. We talk about that too. So figure out something that works for yourself that puts a rhythmic, consistent intentionality behind it, because it is true. When you focus, what you focus on expands, and make a goal, because when you have a goal and you put a plan to it, you're that much more likely to hit it. So maybe your goal is I want to get one in my downline in 2021, or I want to get one per quarter, or what have you. It doesn't have to be I need 14 next month. Put a goal to it. Scott said keep a board with names that you're focused on. When one name comes off, replace it with another name. So you just always have like a very intent focus, and then somehow put it into your weekly systemized time block. So you're allowing your brain time each week to think and work towards it. And so anyway, if you want action items, I would suggest that. And before we sign off, I really do think you should talk about revenue versus profit.
I will.
Yes.
I will. And in addition, you know, it's over time. You get into those relationships over time, you know, and so it's really cool to see some of those people come off. I mean, Samantha Marbury was on my list for, like I said, the last 2 years. There's some people that have been down there a little bit longer, but I know who the top 10 people are on my list at all times, you know, and that is an interesting, and because what happens is then you see them on the hot sheet and you send them a text. Great job, great new listing, beautiful new listing. Or you look at their, next thing you know, you're showing them, it looks like that red truck. You're starting to see their signs. You're starting to see everything about they're doing business there too. I didn't know that, so that it does happen like that. So,
let's finish with the last question. This is important. And again, I know that we're over. If you guys have to pop off, I totally understand. It is 1:05. But what we're going to finish is the difference between profit sharing and something else we've all heard about there in other businesses, revenue sharing.
yeah.
So elevator speech level.
So two things. One, I want to put out two things. One, growth share. Before we get to that really quick, I just want to tell people within Keller Williams, there's profit share and there's growth share. And the reason I say that is because we are expanding our international clientele and relationships, it seems, in this office. And I want to reiterate that with growth share, you can sponsor somebody in KW Bolivia just opened up. KW Aruba just opened up. And if you recruit somebody to those offices, so if you recruit somebody to those offices, you get what they call a growth share check. It comes quarterly as opposed to monthly, and it comes from their royalty, which is never capped in the international model at KW International. I know that sounds weird, but if you have questions about international recruiting, come talk to me. I'll be more than happy to put you in contact with what I think is the right people at the right time. Let me go into revenue share versus growth share, okay? Super important in today's market because obviously there's a SHMEXP. It sounds like SHMEXP. There happens to be a company that sounds like that.
What does it sound like?
SHMEXP. So,
Bless you.
so thank you. So it's based off of a revenue as opposed to profit. Okay, a revenue is driven pre-expenses. Okay, so the reason I say this is because of a couple of things. One, if you have expenses that are set every single month, and you are focused on growing your business and focused on bringing your expenses down, and you bring in the same amount of revenue, and then you share the profits from there, that means you have a healthy business based off of what you have coming in versus what you have going out. Okay, Dave Ramsey is very happy with the Keller Williams system that we focus on our budget and what we have based off of our previous experiences in previous months, and we set a budget, and anything above that is profit. Okay, now if you set your expenses at that same amount and then you share the revenue, that means there's no profit at the end of the month. Does everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. That's really important to understand that they're running off of a deficit. Okay, meaning that
why would a business need profit?
Well, in order to stabilize because you don't know what's coming around the corner. Okay, now you don't know what's coming around the corner. Right now, sure, there's some pillars that are high at SHMEXP, maybe, and that's fine. But they're not maybe necessarily on stable ground. That's the kicker there, because eventually everybody sets their budget, and if your budget is fluctuating, you're not going to have any money at the end of the day, and you then have to sell your services, your databases, your ancillary relationships in order to have a business running. So my point to that is Keller Williams owns Command. They own their own insurance company. They own their own mortgage company. They're not selling off. Okay, we get
stockholders.
Yeah, we're not bound by those stockholders, and so the stockholders, what do they want? They want revenue up, revenue up.
And the stockholders aren't real estate professionals.
That's correct. So stockholders are just, most stockholders, the reason that most of the time I think you're seeing a stock run up is not because of the certain people, Bill Smith, whoever that person is, this fictitious schmeck, because he bought 1,000 shares at $20. Okay, it's not that. It's because Wall Street is a major force, and a conglomerate bought 1 million shares and can sell those 1 million shares in a New York instant. Okay, so the point is that there's so much fluctuation in the valuation of companies that typically run off of revenue sharing versus profit sharing. Okay, again, it's very important to understand that the structure and foundation of our company is based off of profit share. If you look at revenue share, it's typically rewarding the shareholders, big shareholders, by the way, and typically the founder. And that's about it, because then they have gone public, okay? And it might be 10 founders and his buddies, or her buddies. And so that's really important to understand, because there is a huge difference in profit share versus revenue share. And a lot of times you start to, and this is the biggest thing, you start to see the foundation of a culture start to shake, because people aren't necessarily caring about the profit at the end of the day, they're caring about the revenue. And that's not how you run a business, right? Do we have questions on that or other statements?
I think you did it. I think that can be a really challenging thing to sort out, to like connect with in your head sometimes. And I also think it can boil back down to like the basic fundamentals that we learn in the Shift book, where, Shift talks a lot about you have to be cognizant of your expenses.
Yeah.
And that's the part of the business that's a very important part of the business to manage. And so, and I think also real estate, especially for transactional minded agents, it gets confusing because somewhere along the way, some of us associate commission with profit, and commission is the revenue to a real estate business. It is not profit.
Yeah,
and there is no business that has 100% profit.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're thinking like a business person, to understand the difference between profit share and revenue share, and then also to understand your business so you can grow your profitability and make as much profit as you can, which is the point, you have to understand that we're in a business where commission is basically the one and only and revenue generator. And so it's revenue minus expenses. And as a business owner, you can control your expenses and make decisions about those. And then that minus expenses, that is your profit. So the profit is truth and valid, and what is actually there after the business has been conducted. So it's not built on a house of cards. And so when you're part of the business that shares the profit, you are in a sustainable business that's built for the marathon of all the markets.
The marathon of all the markets is a really good point, because if you run across, I really question, and listen, we're in a capitalist world, right? I mean, you can open up EXP. I'm just gonna, there's people that took advantage of a situation, formed it, built it. There's a lot of millionaires out there. Sure, great, whatever. At the end of the day, when you lose your revenue, okay, i.e. 2006, 2007, 2008, and we had 10,000 homes on the market. You remember that?
Oh, I do.
We had 10,000 homes on the market, 9 times the amount we have now, or 7 or whatever, 6. But anyway, the point being is that revenue starts to shrink. Okay, and then the next thing you know, what are you going to sell in order to keep that stock price going up? What are you going to sell? What are you going to connect with? What are you going to own or be a part of that? You have to do it because your stock price is dependent on what the investors in your company are determining that you need to do.
And the more when you sell something, you relinquish the control.
Yes.
Which then comes full circle to why Gary is so focused on building a company where we own our resources and our leverage so we can control them.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions about that, Emily and I are more than happy to share our opinions and conversations. I mean, again, you know, there's certain people, and I get it. I just don't want anybody to make moves for misinformation. You know, that's my biggest thing, is misinformation. You know, and I just know this for a fact. Looking at trying to sell some of the shares that have been given to you at EXP is virtually impossible unless you stay there for 4+ years. Okay. And it's just a really big challenge. So don't get glossy eyed over what things are discussed out there in the marketplace.
And on that note, maybe remind everybody about what happens after 3 years with Keller Williams. Yes, what
There you
happens
go.
after 3 years at Keller Williams, panelists? I know the answer, I'll let you
You are completely vested,
What does vested mean?
meaning that no matter what happens, if I retire or if I die, and if it can be willable because I have it in my will where it goes down to my children evenly, by the way, even though one of them is my favorite. And, you know, the idea of still retaining earnings for the rest of your life after you've stayed 3 years and a day is there. And if you move companies, you are no longer vested if you move companies and are at a competitor. That changed a couple of years ago, about a year or two ago, maybe.
We're at this family reunion, I think.
Maybe a month
That
and a
was
half
also
ago.
like 8 years ago.
That's- That happened this year. You can't, so if you leave companies, it's not if you retire, but it's if you go to a competitor, you're no longer vesting, basically, is what that is. So that did change this year, so.
Well, awesome. Panelists, thank you all so much for your expertise. I also am thankful for everybody else who came to talk and listen and be educated. And thank you, Stephanie, for our panini lunch.
Yes.
And let's keep this up. This is a powerful conversation, and I just want to keep it going. So we'll be doing it again in the future. Look for it. Tell your buddies, and thank you guys very much. Have a great afternoon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thursday.